That sucked. And now you're telling me you've just signed a golf client and we're no longer friends. So thank you for watching the few episodes of the PPC Cave. This is the final episode. Yeah.
Yeah, you heard it here first, guys. We got it to episode 3, and I think this is the finale as well. But yeah, no, yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'll enjoy this one, but I'll definitely keep you looped in if they have, if I have any questions, because I know you're the golf guy.
Welcome back to another episode of the PPC Cave with me, Ryan Fenton, and my co-host Gene Villanos. And we're starting to get through them, Gene. This whole series is about the importance of winning and running Google Ads, and this episode is really where to start with Google Ads. Now we're really starting to get to the meat and potatoes of how to run campaigns and what's to be expected when you turn that campaign on. And we've talked about why of why you should run Google Ads. We've talked about the underlying expectations. We've set the groundwork in terms of time, money, patience. And now it's really about where to go from here, how to actually get started with Google Ads. And I think what we're going to do is probably go back and forth, right? So if you want to kick things off, Gene, with e-commerce, and I can kind
Yeah.
of throw my 2 cents in with the two pennies in with lead gen.
Speaking on that, this is where y'all should really listen now because I know we've talked about kind of leading up to this, more of the groundwork, but this is more of like actionables. This is where you get to take a peek in Ryan Fenton and Gene Villanose's processes, which in all fairness shouldn't be free, but we're giving it out for free every Monday on YouTube, on Spotify, just because we want to help people like you and me. We want to help other PPC managers out there. And it kind of reminds us too of the good best practices that all Google Ads managers should kind of abide by. So I think the saying is when you teach, you learn twice. And I think here we're definitely learning twice. And we're now ready to provide y'all, I wouldn't say the blueprint, but more of our just process. So for me, I'll kick it off with e-commerce. If you were starting off with Google Ads campaigns and you have e-commerce store, there's a bit of a difference when it comes to e-commerce versus lead gen. And later Ryan will take on lead gen. But the first and foremost for both, I would say, is definitely understanding what is success. What does success look like in your Google Ads campaign? Because success can look differently for many different types of businesses or clients. It could be just brand awareness, or it could be an opt-in, or it could be, in this case for e-commerce, I believe there should only be one primary conversion action, and that is a purchase. So if you have the purchase as your primary conversion action, then to me that's more than half of the battle, because a lot of the times you see a client or you see a Google Ads business and you look, the first thing I do, I don't know about you, Ryan, but I look at their conversion settings and I'm like, the conversion settings is that hinges upon everything on Google Ads. That's basically telling Google Ads, this is what we want to optimize for, and anything other than this we don't want it. So if you don't have purchases, if you're running an e-commerce campaign as the primary action for conversions, then you're really shooting yourself in the foot. And for me personally, I like to also do add to cart as a secondary and also begin checkout. And a lot of the times you see that, and that's kind of like the, I would say, big three for e-commerce is conversions being the primary action, then add to cart, and begin checkout as a secondary action. And you can get a lot of data from that. You could start to see, okay, why is there conversions, or why is there no conversions and a lot of add to cart and begin checkout? And you start to dissect that funnel of where the person is in the journey and where they stop or where they go all the way through. Do they go ahead and do the purchase? Or do you see like maybe on the weekends, there's a lot of add to carts and not a lot of conversions? You could really drill down with the data when you get these things right, especially for an e-commerce client. What about you, Ryan? How does it look on lead gen for you?
Well, I'm just going to quickly pick up on something that you mentioned there because, I mean, for lead generation and e-commerce, excuse me, for lead generation and e-commerce, Is it really easy to just go in? Like, could a business owner, for example, just go in and set up conversion tracking, especially for e-commerce? I don't think so, right? Because of the dynamic values.
Yeah,
I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't think for I, I don't think a client, if they were just a business owner creating this for themselves, running in, I don't think they'd be able to do both. So yes, I definitely agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think since we're keeping things really top level, I think I don't want to kind of give people wrong information and be like, oh, this is just something like, you own like Bill's plumbing service or something like that. You can go in and, set up your conversion value. If you're selling your products, for example, you can go in and set up conversion value and conversion tracking just like that. It's not like that. You're going to have to probably work with either a Google Ads specialist like Gene and I, or find a conversion tracking specialist to go in. And because there's an alteration of the code, there's a lot of things that go into it. So just so we're giving you the most amount of information to be able to go away and start that first step. And it very much is that first step. I think as soon as you have the Google Ads account created and loaded up, number one thing that you should do after adding in the billing information is really get conversion tracking sorted, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's lead generation. And I would say that for lead generation, it is slightly easier because really what you're tracking are form fills, are phone calls, maybe click to call, click to email. Although I would say that they're more micro conversions because if somebody is on their phone and they click to call or click to email, they're not necessarily going to follow through with a phone call or an email. It's just showing that people are engaging with that. Whereas if it is actually you're tracking a certain phone number and people have called that, then that is a conversion because somebody's getting in touch with you. If somebody's filled out a contact form and you're tracking the submit button or the thank you page, that is a conversion. That's a macro conversion. That is the main primary action that you should be tracking and optimizing for when it comes to your Google Ads campaigns. So, yeah, I would say that conversion tracking is probably the most important thing that you can get right in your Google Ads account from day one. And you'd be surprised to see, I don't know about Eugene, but I see so many accounts where conversion tracking has not been set up or we don't have the full picture and certain things aren't set up. Some really important ones on websites. I mean, do you see that quite frequently?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads to the first point that you made earlier. For to create the conversion settings, there's a lot of things that need to talk, and there's several ways to do it. So I would definitely encourage, if this isn't your ability to be able to get on Google Tag Manager, or put code here and there and verify it, to just outsource it. Just outsource it to somebody on Fiverr Pro. If you were to ever have a management package with us, that comes with it. So any setup like that for conversion, add to cart, begin checkout, as a client or someone that's looking out there, maybe you're looking at me and Ryan, and you're trying to see our processes of how a client would be in our portfolio. For all our clients, we set that up, and we make sure that that is like set up in the very like first 1 or 2 days of your management with us, and we take care of everything. But for us, it's really important to get that accurate, because if it's not accurate, then it not only is bad for the reporting, but you start to create things in your mind thinking that it's going well when it's really not. A lot of the times me and Ryan see an add to cart or begin checkout a primary conversion action. So when you see that as a primary conversion action, then the conversion value could be doubled or tripled in this case, because if one purchase is a primary conversion action, so is add to cart, begin checkout, that one purchase is 3x on a conversion value. So that could be something that is inflated, and once things get inflated like that, you start thinking, oh well, maybe I need to run more budget on it. But what if all of it is a primary action and you start to see that it's more add to carts and actual conversions or purchases? Then you're kind of looking at data that's incorrect. And we've talked about this in our last couple episodes. If you don't have data and you don't have time, then you don't have good insights, because data plus time equals insights. And we really need to build off of that, and accuracy with setting up conversions and the tracking is super important, right, Ryan?
Absolutely. If you can get those things right, start away, then you're saving yourself so much time and effort, really, because like you said, it can inflate the numbers. You can think that you're doing a lot better than what you are, and actually you're not, and it's being misled, and it's skewing. If anything, it's skewing the conversion data. Your cost per conversion could be like $5, but that could include add to carts, that could include initiate checkouts, that could include phone calls, it could include anything. Whereas actually it might be more like $50 cost per conversion, which makes more sense, right? And you're only tracking purchases. That would make sense to me. If it was $5 cost per conversion, for example, that's a red flag for me. And I would investigate that further and be looking at, okay, well, that doesn't seem right. Either they're really, really good and the offering is there, or they're just, tracking many different conversion actions that aren't necessarily a conversion. So yeah, definitely get that right.
And can I ask you one more thing, Ryan? Have you?
Yeah.
We're not agency side, or Ryan was agency side before, but we're not that. But we see a lot of clients either in audits or just the initial Zoom call where we take a peek at their account, and I see on all the campaigns that it has XYZ agency on it, but the conversion tracking is wrong. And am I too skeptical or sadistic to think that they do that on purpose sometimes, where the conversion settings are wrong, where there's multiple primary conversions to inflate and to keep a client? Is that something that agencies might do, Ryan? What do you think?
No comment.
I don't
Honestly,
I don't want to get into trouble here, but
yeah, this is it. I've got to
seen it.
be careful. I don't want to bash any other agencies at the end of the day. I'm just focused on what I can do and what I can deliver for my clients, really. With that being said, I think, back in the agency days, we were just given the client to manage. And it was a case of, okay, well, we get them in this particular state. We're not, it sounds really bad, and I don't feel good about saying it, but we're not paid to do conversion tracking. At that point, we're just paid to manage the campaign. So it's usually, when you're an agency, it's keyword research, ad copy, bid management, bid strategy, negative keywords, keyword research, all that kind of stuff. Conversion tracking is usually taken care of by the web developer or the website team or whatever it might be. So because, like I mentioned before, it's kind of like altering the code a little bit. So, and I have seen instances where I've personally taken clients over from other agencies. Well, clients have come to me and they were previously with an agency and they've had conversion tracking, like they've had add to carts and begin checkouts. And, recently I've just kind of got a client back who I had for like 2 years, and he came back to me. And, when I took a look at their conversion tracking, what they'd done, they had purchases, which is good, but they also had, I think, newsletter signups included as the main conversion action. They also had phone calls. And I know for a fact this client told me when I worked with him the first time around, phone calls don't really mean anything to him. He wants to track actual sales and purchases. And newsletters, I mean, I don't really know what that's about. But I think, again, going back to what you said, Gene, it's about making the agency look good. It's about bringing those numbers down, cost per conversion, bringing conversion rate up. So...
Yeah, and we're not here to bash any particular agency, but we could be completely honest. If you are going to go agency side with your Google Ads, just beware. There are some agencies out there that are good, and the practices don't fall on the salespeople getting you into a contract, and you're actually going to get an account manager to know how to set these things up. But that's very far and few between. At least with a freelancer like us, we treat every single client as we're a part of their business. So it's very, very personal, and we make sure that all these things are set up, so at least for us, we make sure that that's set up, and you're getting me and Ryan as your account managers, not some junior account person that doesn't have the experience. But yeah, so that's definitely. Do you have anything else left on conversion tracking, or are we good to move on to the next?
I think we're good to. It's becoming like the conversion tracking episode, but I think we're good to move on. It's important, though. It is important.
That's why it's the first point. And me and Ryan really see eye to eye to this, because we see this every time. We get multiple inquiries a week. And, if you want to learn how to be successful with Google Ads, and you really, truly want to understand where to start with Google Ads, understand that you need conversion tracking. Gone are
Mm,
those days where you could just run, a campaign without any of these things, and maybe you could still do it if you're just doing brand awareness, but you're missing out on a lot of data if you don't get this set up. So we definitely think that's the first step. Secondly, for e-commerce, how the way I like to do things is look at your data. We've talked about data, and we've talked a lot about how it helps Google Ads, right? And it helps your business as a whole. If you're selling online, you have so much data at your fingertips. Look at your data. For me, if I'm looking at an e-commerce company, barring that they're not like a brand new, client where they haven't made any sales, and I think me and Ryan have kind of graduated where we don't really take that on anymore. We kind of usually like to look at clients that has had some type of success either on Google Ads or on Shopify before. But yeah, look at your Shopify data. If you're in e-commerce and you're looking at where do we want to start with Google Ads, look at your Shopify data and see where you're winning in the following, because e-commerce is hinged upon these three things, and me and Ryan discuss this all the time. If you want to be successful in e-commerce, you have to understand, are you presenting your reputation through blogs, social proof, or reviews on your website? And that's different from having those, and that's, a lot of customers might have that, or clients might have that on their, Amazon or on their eBay, but is it on your website? Because they're looking at your website. Are you showing that you're reputable? And number two, the speed of shipping in e-commerce. Are you overstating that, over communicating when items will ship? A lot of the times, e-commerce on Shopify clients aren't. On Google Ads, whenever you click a PLA, a product listing ad, it goes directly to the product page. Your shipping time frame should be right there. If they have to go back to the homepage and travel back and take another 5 seconds off of their time, you have a finite amount of seconds to create a sale from a Google Ads click. So to have your shipping, speed of shipping in stock, ready to ship, going to be there within 5 days, have that on your product page, and price, being price competitive, those three things. That's how you find your best sellers, because you'll understand if you're doing at least one of those three things, or two of those three things, or all of those three things, then you're starting to get a little bit of a competitive advantage. And when you get a competitive advantage online, you start to sell. So if you could look back at your 3 months, 6 months, year, or all-time best sellers, start there with your Google Ads campaign if you're beginning. Go ahead, Ryan.
well, you had me sold. I think I'm gonna create a new e-commerce business and get you to manage the account, because that sounded great, to be honest.
Thank you. You can find me on Fiverr.com.
I think with lead generation, it's kind of the same, really. But what I would suggest businesses do is let's just start slow and build. And I think I mentioned this in the last episode as well. And it rings true. And I say this to a lot of people. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to go at like 1,000 miles an hour. Let's just start with one campaign, one ad group, and let's just push 20, maybe 25 keywords out there. And you could start with something like $10 a day if you wanted to, $15 a day, $20 a day. And obviously, if you're, in the UK, 10 to 20 pounds a day would be fine. It's the same process, really. But starting with something like 20, 25, maybe even 30 keywords at a push, one ad group, and just focus on like 15 like phrase match, 15 exact match keywords, and you should be good to go. Just let that run and see what happens. Providing you've got conversion tracking set up like we talked about, if you give it say 90 days for 3 months, you should start seeing some results within that time frame. And if not, then you read the data, look at what the data is telling you, and start reading into that and making decisions based on the data. It could be that it's working, you're getting really good clicks, but you're not really getting the conversions. Okay, well, why? Is it because you're too competitive on, you're not enough what am I trying to say? You're not competitive on price, right? You've got a very slow speed of service. You might have really bad reviews. It could be anything, really. So that's where you want to read the data and kind of look at, why am I not getting the conversions? But let's just start slow. One campaign, about 30 keywords, one ad group, one ad copy, even if you wanted to, and see what happens. You don't need these like really well thought out, planned, well structured, campaigns where you've got 5 or 10 different campaigns, all doing different things, all different bid strategies, and this, that, and the other. With lead generation, I would say for you, go for your bread and butter package. If it's plumbing, I've just sold a client recently, and they're gas engineers, boiler installations, things like that. I think you guys have that over in the
Yeah.
States, right? It's like
Mhm.
AC, right? I guess.
HVAC.
Um, HVAC, that's right. Yeah, thank you. And it's just the same thing. It's just like, let's push your main bread. So, like where Gene was saying about bestsellers for e-commerce, for lead generation, what's your best-selling service?
Mhm.
Is it like boiler installations? Is it gas engineer? Is it like tree stump removal, if you're a tree surgeon, for example? Is it I can't think off the top of my head, but there's so many different things that it could be. Like if you're an electrician, is it, like general emergency type of work that you get a lot more revenue through, a lot
Right.
more, contracts through? Exactly. So let's put the money where the mouth is to a degree, and let's put our money on the winning horse to begin with, and then build out from that. So start with the one campaign, start with your best service, and then build from there.
I think
How
the
does that sound?
biggest, that's perfect. And I think both lead gen and e-commerce, if you're looking at where you want to start, Google Ads is best used if you're accentuating the positive. A lot of the time, some clients come to me and say, can you help me sell this stock or this product that's never sold before or is our worst seller? And I tell them, do you know why they're your worst seller? It's because you're probably not winning on reputation, price, or speed of service. So there's a reason. The market will always dictate what wins online. And we can't reinvent the wheel here, and we've talked about that. Google Ads is best used if you put your best package out there for lead gen, if you put your best sellers together for e-commerce, and then accentuate the sale or accentuate the positive by increasing traffic flow to those product pages in hopes that you get more conversions, more signups, more opt-ins. So I do get that question a lot, Ryan. I don't know about you, but there are some clients out there that want to push items on Google Ads, thinking that Google Ads, which it could be, it might be a traffic situation, but for me, at least in the e-commerce space, there's a reason why you have a lot of stock of this and not a lot of stock of that. There's a reason why there's a lot of sales for this and no sales for that. And Google Ads can mediate that in the best way possible if it's actually being sold. It could increase sales as opposed to, in my opinion, revive sales or, not to say that Google Ads can't. What are your thoughts on that, Ryan?
I think for me as well, I take a similar approach to you, but I usually leave it with the business owner, and I'll say to the client, like, well, what are your best services, or what are your best sellers? And do you want to do that? Or, another one that I really love to do is high margin. So I'll speak to the client and I'll say, what are your highest margin products? Because in theory, if they sell and we're advertising those, you're going to get more of a return. So then we can
Yeah.
obviously increase the Google Ads budget, the campaign budget, on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, whatever the client wants to do. But if we start with bestsellers, if we start with highest margin, then when you do make a sale, it's going to go a lot further and you're going to get rewarded much better. So that's what I usually say to clients is, what kind of approach do you want to take? I'm happy to push all the products out there, but how many products are we talking? Have you got 50,000 products? And I've had clients with 50,000 products and more, but they've had the budget to do so. They can advertise them, and that's fine. But are you talking about five products? Where's the kind of thing? If it's five, then that's okay. We can start with that anywhere up to like 50, I would say. Just to begin with, by the way, we're keeping things very top level in this episode. Over time, you can start to build out and add more products and things like that, but it's really good to start with your best sellers, with your highest margin products. And it's the same with lead generation. Start with your best services, the ones that are going to give you a return, or that are going to, get a lot of inquiries for because it's your bread and butter package. The other thing to note with obviously e-commerce is it gets a little bit tricky, because if you're advertising just all your best sellers, like you said, the product listing ads, you put your products on Google Shopping, people can click onto that product, great. But once they're on the website, they could buy anything. They could buy an
Yeah.
accessory, they could buy, a $5, £5, toy or whatever it might be. They're not always going to buy the bestseller that you're advertising. They're not always going to buy the highest margin product that you're advertising. They could just start browsing the website and buy something for £5 or something.
Mhm.
So you got to be really tricky. But the idea is you're sending traffic to that product page, that sales page. So there's more intent. If somebody's looking for that product, they're searching for it. They're going out their way to search for that specific product. You're showing them that product, and when they click on it, there's more of an intent there for them to actually go through and convert and make that purchase or whatever it might be, rather than drift off and buy like a dog toy or something for $5, for example. So that's just something that I kind of make clear to my clients, because they're like, oh God, we want to, advertise all of our products. Well, it's not like we're not, people can't buy them on the website. Of course they can. We're just going to push more budget towards what's working right now. So I think that's
Yeah.
fair.
No, I definitely agree. And that kind of leads me to the next point, where I would start for e-commerce if I was to create a new campaign today would be more of a catch-all campaign, for Performance Max. And I also do bestsellers, but that's usually for I would do that like on a Google Shopping, manual shopping, which let's just say this, there are people that are pro manual Google Shopping and pro PMax, but we are evolved where we can understand the value of both and when to use them and when to test them. So I just want to say that.
So glad you said that.
Yeah, because there is just this weird conflict between PMaxers and the traditionalists,
Which side are
but
you on?
I am on the side that gets me the highest conversion value over cost, aka return on ad spend. So
That's a good
whichever,
answer.
yeah. So I still use shopping for some clients, but not as much. But for here, if I was to create something where you don't even have a Google Ads account set up, I would probably use a catch-all Performance Max, and also that's one asset group. Create one catch-all Performance Max asset group where it's more of like a general, it goes to the shop page, and then I would also create another asset group under that campaign, and then just create that as the best sellers, where I go to the listing groups and go individually through the Shopify and look at what is actually sold the most, and I would create that and I would run it. And the good thing about running a PMax campaign as a catch-all, if you do see any winners and you really want to get granular with the type of spend that you have, and you have all this data around that because it's sold great on Performance Max, well, there's nothing wrong with you creating a shopping campaign that just has that particular product in it, where it's themed only for that. So you can use catch-all Performance Max as almost like I guess like a fishing pole, where you're seeing what type of fish are you getting in. Do you like this, do you not like that, or are you getting conversions on this, or are you getting a lot of cost on that, not conversions? Because for the most part, if you're starting off in the beginning, you don't know a lot of things. So at least if you see catch-up Performance Max run for a couple months, and then you could go through the products and say, okay, this didn't get any click, let me take that out, or this has a weird CTR where it's like super low, that's not helping me. We don't need to use those products in that Performance Max campaign. So you could start really broad and then get really, really granular. And then even Google says this, it's best used, Performance Max is best used if you have a search campaign alongside with it, because that search campaign will use the signals and for the account, and then be able to kind of like ping pong across to the Performance Max campaign. So I like to do that. So just a regular theme search ad, if preferably if the Shopify customer has like an awesome USP, like a unique selling point, either their price is so low or they have like a lifetime warranty, or they have a particular product that no one else is selling. I really like to get those unique selling points as a search ad or search campaign and just really push that, because you want to put your best foot forward, especially when it's just text on search. You really want to be concise and clear of your offering, because if you're not, then there's confusion there. And when there's confusion, your credibility plummets. And when you don't have credibility online, they're probably not going to even click through. So that's where I would start. Again, catch-all PMax campaign, 2 asset groups, 1 catch-all and 1 with the best sellers, and then a theme search ad to go with this theme search ad campaign. What about you, Ryan?
I'm going to pick up on just something you said there about PMax and search campaigns living in harmony. because I never really saw it before. I was running it for a long time and I never really saw the benefit until recently. I've could still got this client and I was running just a search campaign and it was just not converting. It was not moving. We probably get like one or two conversions every 3 months or something like that.
Mm.
I've just recently, and I say recently, within the last 3, maybe 4 weeks, turned on a Performance Max campaign, and it's like somebody's turned the lights on. We're
Yeah.
starting to we're getting conversions. Like we had, I think, 5 conversions in a single day the other day, and not just from the Performance Max campaign, but from the search campaign as well. So there is that kind of like they help each other out. They kind of feed into one another, and it's
Yeah.
really interesting to see. So for this client, which it was getting a little bit like, like I was going to lose them potentially. I think now that because, and they're not e-commerce. This is the thing. They're actually lead generation, which is more interesting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like we've turned a corner and we're seeing some really good results coming through now, really good. And the client's a lot happier. And I think this is the thing. And the misconception is Performance Max is only for e-commerce. Yes, I would say 80% of the time it is, but there's that 20% of the time where Performance Max can actually kind of work for lead generation. I think
Yeah.
if it's an obscure type of, business model, service-based business or something like that, Performance Max can actually come in and obviously advertisers across so many different channels. You're talking YouTube, search, shopping, discover, Gmail, display, a lot of different things. Not always do you know where your audience are hanging out, right? You
Right.
may think, okay, well, we're a service-based business. They're basically going to be on the search channel, Google search, right? Not necessarily. Some might be on YouTube. Some actually might be in the Gmail. Some might be on Discover. You don't really know until you actually run the numbers and run the data and you see it for yourself. This client that I've got, I was really keen to push a YouTube video. And, the problem was he didn't have the resources to create a YouTube video. So what I did was create a Performance Max campaign because, right, you can create a very basic video ad through Performance Max, which is fantastic. And we did that. And all of a sudden, we're starting to see a lot more views. We're starting to get a lot more calls coming through, a lot more inquiries. Clients happy. I'm happy. Happy days, right? But I think with lead generation, really it comes back to keeping things simple. So that one campaign, just start off with that one campaign. 30 keywords, phrase and exact. Why phrase and exact? Because phrase and exact match keywords ensure high quality searches coming through your campaign. If you were to just turn on broad match, it's the problem with broad match is it's low quality traffic, it's really, really cheap. And again, kind of like what we were talking about at the start, it inflates the numbers, right? So the reason broad match is cheap is because it's cheap searches, it's low quality traffic. There's no transactional based kind of search intent through these keywords, through these searches. Whereas if you're bidding on phrase match, if you're bidding on exact match, you get that intent, you get that sort of like that quality coming through. The keywords you're bidding on are going to closely match with what people are searching for. So that's why we want to make sure we're bidding on phrase and exact and not broad match. And the other thing to note when it comes to lead generation is please don't use a smart campaign. I don't know if you've ever encountered a smart campaign, Gene, but smart campaigns are just really bad. They're very difficult to optimize. There's very little you can do to optimize them. You kind of just give Google the keys to the kingdom. You give them a budget and they'll just go and advertise wherever on whatever keywords. Usually it's low quality searches. Usually Google completely disregards what your main goal is. All it really aims to do is get you as many clicks as possible for your daily budget. It doesn't really care what you're after, whether that's phone calls, form fills, or even selling a product. They just want to get you as many clicks as possible. So usually it's low quality, cheap, unqualified traffic. So definitely to all business owners out there, stay clear of smart campaigns and just focus on good old fashioned search campaigns. Um, yeah, and just keep it simple. And then run that for 3 months, see what the data is telling you. And then if you want to add more services to that campaign, if you want to create more campaigns, go from there. Look at the data. Are you getting a lot more inquiries coming in, phone calls, form fills, and things like that? If so, start building out, offer another service, and go from there, really.
Yeah, and that's huge, and that's going back to keeping it simple. A lot of the times people want to start on Google Ads and make it super complex where you have multiple campaigns and, multiple asset groups. And, a lot of the times it doesn't take that much to get traction, or at least get the data to understand an insight, so that you could create more of a educated guess of what campaign you want to run next, or what ad group you want to try, or what theme asset group you want to incorporate. So I think starting simple is almost imperative, and it's paramount that you do so, because Google will eat your budget up quick. And if you are just doing a Hail Mary shotgun approach of multiple campaigns, really creating ad groups that, doesn't really have much thought of a theme inside of it for search, especially, Google is going to eat that up, and you're going to look at the last month with $600 $800 spend without much conversion. And you might even look into the data more granularly and not even get a much of a conclusion, because you've spread yourself so thin with all these products, and everything has one click, and you don't know where to start. You're like, there's no theme here, there's no pattern I can go off of. So really, making sure that you start simple with particular bestsellers or packages, or even search terms and search keywords that make sense together, and then systematically discarding or doubling down on what works and what doesn't, is kind of the root of optimization in Google Ads. And you can take this type of strategy, you could take it anywhere. That basically it's what my versatile, I guess. It's something that could be applicable to anything on Google Ads, is starting small and then scaling up through insights, after you've kind of spent that budget and understand what you're getting. So I don't know. I think we've kind of covered a lot of ground with a top level, episode here. Ryan, do you have anything else to add? Because this is, for me and Ryan, I bet our minds are just like constantly going, because we are trying to be top level, but when we talk about these things, we know there's so many details and caveats and nuances, but we're trying to not overwhelm y'all. We could overwhelm y'all later on, so stay subscribed to us, but this is really top level. Anything else to add, Ryan?
Not at all. I think just that point is, it can be overwhelming if you're a business owner, whether you're in e-commerce, online retail, or lead generation, service based. Opening up a new Google Ads account, it can seem very overwhelming. And, you can try and follow our advice. And if you keep watching, then we'll probably go more in depth as the episodes come through and, show you firsthand how to create a Google Ads account and campaign for both e-commerce and lead generation. And you can do it that way and save on cost. The other option is you could work with a Google Ads account manager like Gina or I, and I think you take that, and I say this to clients, you take that big Google Ads problem away from you, and you have someone who has the experience, has the know-how, has the knowledge, who is in the accounts on a daily basis monitoring performance for you, so you don't have to worry about that. So you can focus on sourcing new products, promotions, pricing, seasonality. Or if you're in the service-based lead generation business, you can focus on hiring, you can focus on pushing new services, going to new areas and things like that. Focus on what you're good at, rather than, focusing on pulling your hair out, going down like a rabbit hole of how do I do this in Google Ads? How do I do that? We're going to help you as much as possible as these episodes come through. Of course we are. But, the shortcut would be to work with an account manager who knows what they're doing. I wouldn't want to kind of perform open heart surgery on myself. I wouldn't want Gene to do it for me by any means. I'd rather have a surgeon who could do that for me, right? I wouldn't want to do it myself. And I think it's the same when it comes to Google Ads. If you want the best results, seek out an expert who does this for a job, a career, basically. So that's what I would say. It can seem overwhelming, and we're going to do our best to really put things in layman's terms for you as best as possible. But there's always that side of, look for an account manager who can definitely, add a lot of value there.
Yeah. And, if you want to look for Ryan, go ahead and tell him where you could be found at.
Yeah, you can look and find me at ryanfentonppc.co.uk. obviously on the PPC Cave with Gene, and I'm starting to get back into Twitter. I always say this every week, and then I never do any tweets. But you can find me at Ryan Fenton PPC there as well. How about you, Gene? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so go ahead and go to genevillanos.com. My website is live, but it's still under construction. But I think the contact page is all you really need there. But yeah, I'm on Twitter, I'm on TikTok, I'm on IG at Gene Villanos. And you can also follow us on our socials if you like our content at that. The PPC Cave, the PPC Cave on TikTok, Instagram. What else are we on?
I think that's it. I think we're just on
That's it.
YouTube at the PPC Cave. Yeah,
YouTube.
we're
Yeah.
doing YouTube. And then if you have any questions, where can people send questions to?
Yeah, so email us at theppccave@gmail.com. We'll be able to field your questions on our show, and we'll be doing another episode next week, every week on Mondays at 12 a.m. Mountain Time. I know that's such a random time, but 12 a.m. Mountain Time on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and also on YouTube. You'll be able to see our episode and see more of our interactions and our faces and our little hand gestures here on YouTube. So if there's nothing else, I think we'll see y'all next week. And thank you guys for listening to the PPC Cave.